The red arrow is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And the green arrow is the victim, Mr. Ephron.
Yo, YouTube, what's going on, man? You about to see what's going on with my boy A AP Relli, man. A AP Relli in the Relli case, Relli trial. I don't know what's going on with this case. I don't know what happened. I ain't hear about what happened. Like, everything new to me. So without further ado, about to get into this shit, bro. And see what the hell going on. Shout out to my boy Cuff, or Cam, you know what I'm saying? But his channel is Cuff Boys. I've been subscribed to bro since like 2016, like Lyrical Lemonade, that type day. So shout out to him, definitely, you know, went up with the channel. And salute to you, bro. Let's get into this shit, see what's going on.
I don't even know how we're supposed to do this. This should be suppressed without question. I don't know if I've ever been this upset in a courtroom. This is not right. It's not fair to him.
Yikes.
A photograph that Mr. Ephron himself took of one of the fired cartridge cases that he found.
Don't tell me he took pictures before he picked them up. This is next level snitching. Day one opening statements of the A$AP Rocky assault trial was insane. The state was given a firearms analysis report by the lead detective the night before the trial. Obviously, Rocky's lawyers are going to be livid about this late discovery, and for some reason the judge lets this in and says the court will pay for a firearms examiner to do the same test that the lab for the state did. It took.
First of all, they got pictures of shell casings, bro. Fuck, man. Once they got evidence like that, it be tough as hell. But let's get into it.
Them a week, but it's only going to take their guy a day. So this is just a disaster. Watch the full video, hit subscribe. Here we go, guys.
There was a comparison done. There were two expended cases that were found at the crime scene by the victim in the case.
Relli went back to the crime scene and found casings, and now the prosecutor's trying to get this comparison in.
What was the date that the expended casings were turned into the police?
The date of the incident.
It would have been 2 days later when he reported it to the police.
In other words, back at the time this happened in 2021.
All right, so the incident occurred on November 6th, so it would have been around November 8th?
Yes.
All right.
And detectives did not find casings at the scene themselves. There's the first look at Rocky.
That examination revealed that, in fact,
What, stay with Rakim Mayers. Said,
are
bitch, stay clean,
consistent
you
with having
motherfucker,
been
man.
fired
Shout out to Rakim Mayers, that
from certain 9mm.
Damn, bro, fuck you.
Could only have been fired from a Glock 43, or could a Glock 43 be among the type of firearms that the expended casings could have come from?
Each exhibits characteristics typical of aftermarket slide. The examiner will
That's why it's
testify
important to control our emotions, bro, especially as
the
black men.
markings he
Ain't
has
gonna talk about
seen
that.
very rarely,
That's a whole spirit.
and that where he has seen them, where they've been recorded, are with a Glock 43 pistol.
So they're suggesting that Rocky may have had a 9mm Glock 43 pistol that matches these shell casings.
My co-counsel looks and says, I've never seen this report before. So he goes back in discovery, looks at emails. We don't have a report. So we instantly contact the defense, send them out the report. I want to
Type
be
shit out that keyboard.
the
Whoever
report
typing on that
is
motherfucker, type right there.
inculpatory, not exculpatory. It was yesterday afternoon. We were in
Like that
court.
V-tat on.
We went back to the office after court yesterday, and that's where we went back and looked to see, do we have this discovery?
So something after 4:30 p.m.?
The email is timestamped 3/18, but I got it when we, so it was essentially received but not gone through yet until I could get back over to my desk.
You conveyed this to the defense when?
We sent it to them at 5:21.
All right, Rocky's lawyer. His name's like Taco Pina. I'm probably butchering that. Taco Pina. Oh, he's pissed about getting this ballistic evidence late.
This morning, after we get an expert report last night that was in the possession of the lead case detective in this case.
For the channel, please hit subscribe. I appreciate the support. Back to the video, boys.
Not some
Make sure you
random
subscribe to
resource.
Cuff Boys, man.
Detective Flores is the case detective in this case. I have to believe he understood the importance of that report. He testified at the preliminary hearing. After we get that report that says, in conclusion, that the subcompact pistol frames, including but not limited to, which means absolutely nothing. So it could be a universe that we don't even understand of other pistols, and then goes on to list 3 of them here. This morning, we got another 28 pages of backup data on this. Backup lab, I guess, report that normally comes with a conclusion report. We got this morning. And I find it hard to believe that the lead detective in this case didn't bring it to anyone's attention from the district attorney's office until after a jury was impaneled the night before opening statements. Something that they now are saying is such a crucial piece of evidence. We have an issue now with the jury. Obviously, it's a jury impanel. It may affect, quite frankly, whether we would have kept or not kept a few jurors on particular. Now, we assured him yesterday he'd have a fair trial. You're going to have a fair trial. I don't even know how we're supposed to do this. This should be suppressed without question because it changes the complexity of the case. At the very least, we have to quash this panel and start again or strike jurors and reselect. I mean, I think even the district attorney said, okay, well, continuance is appropriate. We would need to locate and retain our own expert to conduct a scientific analysis. Their report was 28 pages. It took them, according to them, it took them 1 week to do this. 1 week. That's their own lab with their own on-staff experts. And it took them a week. How long is it going to take us? We have to go find somebody first, hope he's available. The trial will be over.
He's pissed. So now he's suggesting they want to get their own expert to do the same tests.
I mean, there is so much work to be done here to even understand this conclusion.
What are you asking for?
There's no way to proceed in this case if this is admitted. We have to either strike this whole panel. We need a continuance. We have to start again. And what I'm asking for is you include this. This is after the jury was impaneled. This is a major piece of evidence that will require us to do a lot of expert work that took them, their own department. I've never seen anything like this. The late grade soldiers,
you know what I'm saying?
who got the name up for the first time last night. I'm not whining.
That's one solid thing I can say about the lawyer, especially if you're paying buku bread for a lawyer, bro. Yeah, you need to make sure you fucking you need to make sure that your lawyer know what the fuck you doing. You know what I'm saying? And he's making his opening statement is valid. He's basically saying that he needs to run his own test. The state ran they test or whatever on the evidence. So they need to be able to do their own shit and see what's going on. Now I don't know how that works when it comes to shell casings when they test the shell casings. I don't know what the process is, but I'm pretty sure he got his he knows the process and he wants to a fair basically a fair case. So he gonna make sure that all the evidence is right.
About that. I know that's what they want to keep doing. We both have had issues with that. That's fine. This is now a new one. I don't want to get into I told you so. Many people said to me this morning, I told you so, that this was going to happen. And I'm trying to keep my composure. I don't know if I've ever been this upset in a courtroom. In my whole career, both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney, I have to be honest with you. This is not right. It's not fair to him.
Yikes. The defense also sprung a theory that Rocky had a prop gun on him. That apparently might be a route they're going to take. That he did have a gun on him, but it wasn't real. And the prosecution was very mad about that.
It seems like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. The defense is like, it's irrelevant. However, it's so prejudicial that it shouldn't be allowed in. It's so inculpatory that it shouldn't be allowed in.
No, I don't think anyone said it's so inculpatory. You don't understand. Saying it's inculpatory is not accurate. I didn't say it's inculpatory, he didn't say that. What he said was there's a balancing test because he says including but not limited to. All that simply means is, not that it's not inculpatory, not that, we just don't understand what this means. Not limited to means there's a universe of guns that have to be tested now. I don't know what not limited to means. So how many pistols does not limited to include? How many firearms does not limited to include?
Now the jury's waiting. They're telling the jurors they're dealing with some matters.
We have evidence, which it is inculpatory. It's inculpatory because the defendant is found at his location, at his house. There is a 9mm magazine for a Glock 43, and there's no Glock 43 to go with it. So it's just a magazine. We already knew that the defendant had the Glock 43 magazine, and we knew that these were 9mm casings. The difference now is that there's going to be evidence that suggests that a Glock 43 is more likely to have put the marks on the expended casings than many other firearms. So the idea that this would be excluded under 352 is patently absurd. If the defense ends up being that in fact 9mm magazine belongs to the manager, that in fact what was used at the scene was a starter pistol / prop gun, then although we don't believe that's credible evidence, that is where they're going. So here's what we're asking. One, there's no late discovery instruction because, as the court is aware, and maybe counsel is not, to have a late discovery instruction, the court has to find that we had the information and didn't turn it over. There's no reason why we wouldn't turn it over, and as soon as we had it, we turned it over. And as the court's aware, I've been trying cases in front of His Honor for going on 30 years. As soon as we found this evidence, we contacted the court and we contacted counsel.
That doesn't matter. It's the day before the trial. She'll be excluded, right? He's saying as soon as they found out the night before, they notified everyone, but that doesn't matter.
It is a very quick examination, and the amount of time that it should take for someone to examine it and end up being able to assess whether or not LAPD was accurate in what they found is ranging from a few hours to maybe a day.
But the purpose for an opening statement is to give the jury an idea of what the evidence, what you believe the evidence will show. Talking about late discovery, that's argument. So as far as your opening statement, I don't want you to mention anything about you just found out about a starter pistol. That is not part of what the evidence will disclose.
Damn, okay, so he doesn't want the state to talk about the starter pistol theory the defense sprung on them in the opening statement, which makes sense.
They're arguing that this evidence is so damaging that we have to start over. Now, that's not in a vacuum. It's very clear that the defense is not happy with this jury. They've made it clear.
Hold on.
No, don't interrupt.
Okay.
He didn't interrupt you, don't interrupt him.
It is very clear
Snapping at Rocky's lawyer not to interrupt.
where they have repeatedly said that their client is not getting a fair trial because of what they believe is the composition of the jury, the fact that they have filed a writ, the fact that they have continued to bring this up, leads to the inescapable conclusion that what they are looking for is a way to start over. I believe, Your Honor, that what we have proposed is more than fair.
So you're saying what the judge was saying too, they're arguing it both ways, that it doesn't matter but prejudicial. But either way, it's really late, right? Is there not a discovery cutoff?
It doesn't matter about what he said about the jury. That has no stop. That has no bearing on any decision I'm going to
This
make.
judge he's not with the bullshit.
I don't believe that you are unhappy with the jury. Mr. Lewin might say you're unhappy with the jury, but that's not, I don't believe you are. If you were, you wouldn't have accepted the jury. I believe that both sides are satisfied that with this jury and that both sides will get a fair trial.
Judge is trying to keep this shit together.
But what I'm seeing here is that the casings that were recovered were examined, and the opinion is they could have been fired from a Glock 43 or any other number of types of 9mm. We have a list, a Superior Court list of firearm examiners that have been recognized as experts. If there is someone on the list that you want to hire, contact that person and tell them this is crucial that the ballistic evidence be examined now, not later, but now. The court will pay for it.
The court will pay for a firearm examiner to look at this? Bro, this is insane. The trial is starting today, so I guess they want to do it over the weekend?
Mr. Mayers will not have to pay for this. We will. If the firearms examiner wants extra money because it's a rush, the court will pay for it.
This is fucking crazy. This is what happens in Los Angeles right here.
If you are not satisfied with the people on the list, then if you want to find your own examiner who will do the examination, the court will
We
pay
ain't doing
for
no crimes in Cali,
it. If
bro.
you feel it is necessary, Mr. Takapina, you can be dark on Monday.
What the hell? Y'all know what time it is.
But I'm
Cali,
not excluding
New
the
York,
evidence.
where I'm at.
I don't
we ain't
find
doing
that
no
there is
crimes,
any
bro.
nefarious conduct. The evidence is relevant. It's not a smoking gun, but it is somewhat inculpatory. But in and of itself does not mean that your client is guilty.
That's bullshit. So he's gonna let it in. They get this fucking report the day of the trial.
And that's the final ruling. I don't want to hear anything more about it. That's the end of the issue for now.
I call bullshit.
Right.
This detective purposely didn't give them this ballistic information until the day before the trial. I swear by that. All right, opening statements for the prosecutor. Let's go.
It was, if we're being generous, 2 blocks, maybe 1 city block away from the first location, down Argyle, around Selma, at a small intersection called Selma and Vista Del Mar. So I'm gonna play the first video
Nigga
for
Rocky
you.
shot
that
a
outside
nigga
of
in
the
LA,
parking
bro.
lot.
I'm still fucked up about that. Like, why would you shoot a nigga in Cali? Unless he was an active
So the
threat.
camera didn't catch
you know?
it, but it's that video of they're saying it's Rocky with the cornrows and the black hoodie, and Relli like tugging each other's sweatshirts and like in each other's faces and shit. And Rocky has a gun behind his back in his hand. So this is all they have of the actual shooting itself.
All right, now let's go over the details. As I said,
I mean, so far that grainy footage doesn't do shit for me. I mean, you can hear something that sounds like a gunshot, but
this case takes place in the heart of Hollywood. This
Well,
is
what
the
the fuck,
iconic
man?
Hollywood and Vine.
Too
Now,
many
the
toys around
actual
that
shooting in this case takes place on a much smaller street, Selma and Vista Del Mar. But this is the area around where that shooting took place. It is a very densely populated part of Hollywood. And there are some landmarks on there that you might be familiar with, just so that you can familiarize yourself with the location that we're talking about.
so the shooting's right around here. A bunch of apartment buildings, it looks like.
Capitol Records building at the top,
Capitol Records building. Oh, I know exactly where this area is.
the W Hotel, and Hollywood Boulevard.
I've stayed at the W Hotel before.
The shooting,
Flex
as
on
you've
the
seen,
count.
occurred just outside of a parking lot on that corner of Vista, Del Mar, and Selma. That was a parking lot at the time that was full of cars, and it was ringed by a nightclub on the corner, a sound studio, a hotel, and 3 different apartment buildings right around. I want to start with how this case starts for LAPD.
Hi, I live in the apartment on the corner of Argyle and Selma in Hollywood, and there's just been a shooting.
So someone calls and said there's been a shooting. 10:18 p.m.
LAPD receives
Like the police
this
report.
call.
They got the
That
police
there's been
report.
a
It's over with.
shooting at the intersection of Argyle and Selma. The call continues though.
Did you see anything or you just heard it?
Yes. No, we watched it.
Okay, what did you see?
There were 4 men, and they were kind of fighting as they were walking along Argyle, and then they turned left onto Selma.
4 men fighting on Argyle, and then they met on Selma. So we got ASAP Twelvyy, Rocky, ASAP Ills, and ASAP Relli. These 3 are still friends right here on the left. Relli is the rat, the snitch.
Now the 4 men that you see on that screen will be the 4 men that we'll talk about in a minute. They were the 4 that were at that location.
And then someone pulled out, the guy in the black sweatshirt pulled out a gun.
Okay.
And he shot, and I think the guy who shot was in blue.
Okay, so she just said the guy in the black sweatshirt pulled out a gun and shot it, I think. So there's the gun. I'm going to have to blur it on the far right, but that's Rocky, and yeah, apparently he's holding a gun.
Now the evidence in this case will be that the man in the black sweatshirt was the defendant, Rakim Mayers. That evidence will be uncontradicted. As you have heard throughout jury selection, Mr. Myers is an entertainer, and he goes by the stage name ASAP Rocky. You will hear other nicknames that he is referred to.
This is crazy that this is really happening. I love how a bullet point is just Rihanna.
Flacco
Right.
and Luigi. At the time of this crime, Mr. Mayers was 33 years old. He has his own company that I believe is referred to as AWGE, A-W-G-E, that you will hear referred to in the testimony in this case. And as we've talked about, his significant other is Rihanna. The victim in this case
That's wild. Like, what
is a
Rihanna
man
got
by
to
the
do
name
with
of
this?
Terell Ephron.
What Rihanna got to do
And
with this?
Mr. Ephron, you will hear, was also a member of the ASAP collective, and he went by
I feel
the
like he called him
nickname
stealing
ASAP
something.
Relli.
That's the only thing I
Mr.
can think
Ephron
of.
was also 33 years old at the time of this crime. And what you will hear from Mr. Ephron is that he was friends with Mr. Myers well before this case and well before even Mr. Myers was a famous individual. That essentially, I believe they met in high school and grew up together.
Bro snitching on his high school friend. Unreal.
The group that both of these men were members of is called ASAP. It's an acronym for Always Strive and Prosper. Was formed by high school age kids in Harlem, New York around 2006. They call themselves a collective. Rappers, producers, music video directors, designers, people that have different artistic pursuits that essentially work together. The victim is on the far right, Mr. Ephron. The defendant is the next person to his left. As I said, AP Twelvyy. His given name is Jamel Phillips, and the last is Elijah.
They treat this shit like a Rico or something. They got these boys on Rico or something.
And these were the four men who were present at the time of both of these incidents. You will not hear all the reasons why there was tension between the two of them, but we will get to the point a day before this shooting, November 5th, 2021, when that tension kind of comes to a head. But what happens on that day, Mr. Ephron will tell you, is that he is in a car with that last member of the ASAP group that I talked about, ASAP Bari. The two of them are driving when ASAP Bari receives a phone call from Mr. Mayers. And ASAP Bari takes that call on speakerphone, so Mr. Ephron, who's in the car, can hear both sides of the conversation. Mr. Ephron, the victim, heard the defendant saying these rude and aggressive things about him.
Bro, who is typing? The entire trial so far that I've watched, someone is typing away nonstop. Oh, is it the court reporter? I just realized it's probably the court reporter, bro. Is the microphone right by the court reporter? Why would they do that?
Mr. Mayers at the time does not know that Mr. Ephron is in the car with
all I hear is
this going fucking crazy. Day, November 6th, 2021. He was asleep around 9:00 p.m. when he started receiving a series of urgent messages from not only from Mr. Mayers, but from the two other men that were with him, ASAP Ills and ASAP Twelvyy. And you'll hear that he received a number of calls kind of back to back to back from the three of them. Now, he didn't answer those calls because he was sleeping. He also received text messages from Mr. Mayers that were aggressive, seeking a confrontation with him, asking him where he was. Mr. Mayers is on the left side of this conversation. Where are you at? Let's get to it. Stop ducking my calls. The messages that the victim's receiving are instantly aggressive towards him.
So Rocky's saying, stop ducking me. Let's get it on. We fighting, boy. I'm in front of Trader Joe's. Drop location.
So you will hear from Mr. Ephron that he called the defendant.
Damn.
He was groggy because he had just woken up. They had a conversation and they agreed to meet outside of the W Hotel in Hollywood. He was of the frame of mind that he and Mr. Mayers were going to have a confrontation. That he believed they would argue and that ultimately this would lead to kind of repairing their relationship. So they would each be able to speak their piece and essentially fight like brothers do, and that it would ultimately bring them closer together. They would repair sort of the issues that they each had with each other.
So it starts here at the parking area. They wrap all the way around to this back alley where the shooting is. Then they run this way, apparently. I may say this prosecutor is taking his precious time on opening statements. Holy fuck.
So I told you there's two incident locations, two altercations that happened. The first happens where the yellow box is right now, right outside of that parking lot.
You don't think they understand that? Holy fuck, there's numbers. Let's get to it.
The second happens at that corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar. And that's where the firearm
is Hollywood. This ain't the hood. This ain't the trenches. It's Hollywood.
Discharged.
The screen is the camera angle right here.
And these cameras capture the initial encounter between the victim, Mr. Ephron, who you see there, and the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And you can see that Ills is the first one to intervene to try to separate the two of them. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you see Twelvyy putting his hand to try to also intervene and help separate them. The second person who you see, who is instantly confrontational with Mr. Ephron, is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. You see on the video that Mr. Mayers is immediately aggressive towards Mr. Ephron. He's pulling at Mr. Ephron's sweatshirt and he's pushing Mr. Ephron backward and pushes him off camera, out of camera view. The third person that you see, as I told you, is Elijah Ulanger, who also goes by ASAP Ills, or he might just be referred to as Ills throughout this. If you look closely, you can actually see his stage name embroidered on the jacket that he's wearing there.
You know, really a snitch, really a rat. Really told, man. Really took the stand, son.
Mr. Ephron will tell you that during the period of time,
hey, yo, really, out of the squad, out of ASAP Mob, B.
First
don't even worry about it, son.
That
Out of ASAP
semi-automatic
Mob,
pistol
B. Done.
from his waistband. He pulls it out of his waistband.
That nigga really snitched, man. That nigga really told, man.
Mr. Ephron will tell you the defendant pointed the gun at his chest and was essentially trying to point the gun around
he was trying to shitbag his ass.
who was between them. That at the time that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Ephron, he was also threatening Mr. Ephron. I'm gonna kill you.
Put the gun to his chest and said, "I'll kill you." That's what the snitch is saying about Rocky, remember?
These men have known each other for a long time. And Mr. Ephron
really said he was finna get shitbagged.
In his state of mind, he never believed that he was going to be shot. He never believed that the defendant would actually shoot him. He will tell you that had this been a stranger, someone he didn't know as well, he would have been petrified. As you can imagine, anyone pointing a gun at you would upset you. But he knows the defendant. He knows that Mr. Mayers is not going to shoot him. He knows so much so that he'll tell you, he looked at the defendant and said, if you brought a gun, you should shoot it. You will hear that that gun that he's holding is a semi-automatic pistol, or has features
and then you
that
rap.
are
How you gonna say some gay shit like that? They tell.
Right now, as he's paused on the screen, you can see that he's holding that gun behind his back. But you will also see the gun come forward in front of his body.
So that's that New York shit.
He ultimately tucks it back into his waistband. And you will see from the video that there were bystanders. As I said, this is a busy Saturday night in Hollywood, walking by as this confrontation is taking place. You will hear that right after that encounter that you saw, that Mr. Mayers walked away and was walking down Argyle towards Selma. Mr. Ephron will tell you that as he walked away, he looked over at Twelvyy, Mr. Phillips, and he saw Twelvyy putting a pocket knife away. And Mr. Ephron, and then Twelvyy and Mr. Phillips walked behind the defendant, Mr. Mayers, and Ills walked behind him as well. So the three men that had come to confront Mr. Ephron walked away down Argyle towards Selma. And Mr. Ephron will tell you that at that moment,
dude, this guy Ephron, man, really is a snitch.
His mindset about the initial confrontation changed. I told you that Mr. Ephron will tell you when he first went there, he believed that this was meant to be a confrontation so that they could strengthen their relationship. The red arrow is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And the green arrow is the victim, Mr. Ephron.
Yo, YouTube, we finna break this down into two parts. It's an hour-long reaction, so I'm finna break this down into two parts. This part one right here, you know, obviously I'm gonna upload them back to back, but yeah, I don't want it to be the video file to be too damn big. So I'm gonna get back to it. I'll be right back, y'all. Fight shit.